The ISS Relentless had been a joke, a relic of a bygone era that had no place in the modern Navy. Once a proud battleship, she had been mothballed in orbit above Titan, her systems outdated, her weapons obsolete. Commanders laughed at the idea of even retrofitting her. Why waste resources on a pile of scrap when the Terran Navy had sleek, state-of-the-art warships at their disposal? Then the Zari invaded. Humanity, outgunned and outmaneuvered, found itself on the brink of annihilation. The enemy fleet was technologically superior in every way. Their plasma weapons melted through Earth defenses like butter, their shields shrugged off Terran counterattacks, and their hyperdrives allowed them to strike anywhere at will. The war should have been over in weeks, but the one thing the Zari didn't account for was human ingenuity. A desperate plan took shape. The Relentless was to be pulled from the scrap heap, not to fight conventionally, but to be transformed into something entirely new. The ship's old systems were too slow, its reactors too weak, so they were replaced not with conventional upgrades, but with hacked-together experimental tech that had been deemed too risky, too unpredictable for frontline warships. They ripped out the standard AI and replaced it with an adaptive, self-learning combat intelligence. They stripped away outdated weapons and fitted the ship with experimental rail guns that fired at near-light speed, bypassing energy shields entirely. The ancient armor plating was reinforced with exotic alloys scavenged from captured enemy wreckage. The Zari relied on sleek, advanced warships with delicate internal systems. The Relentless was built like a brawler, designed to take a hit and keep swinging. The final edition was the most dangerous, a human-mind interface. The ship wouldn't just be controlled by an AI. It would think like a human, fight like a human, adapt, outthink, and outmaneuver an enemy that believed itself superior. When the Zari attacked Earth's last line of defense expecting an easy victory, they were met with something they had never faced before, a warship that fought like a cornered beast, using brutal, unpredictable tactics no programmed fleet could counter. The Relentless was no longer a relic. It was a nightmare given form, the embodiment of human defiance. The Zari came expecting to conquer. Instead, they found hell itself waiting. The Zari fleet descended upon Earth's last defenses, confident in their superiority. Their warships, sleek and deadly, moved with precision of a species that had never known defeat. Against them, the remnants of the Terran Navy braced for the inevitable. They had seen entire fleets wiped out before, and they knew this battle would be no different. Then the Relentless arrived. It didn't look like much. Its hull was scarred, its design blocky and brutish compared to the elegant curves of Zari warships. The enemy commanders laughed, an old Terran battleship, barely space-worthy, sent to its final death. But the laughter stopped when the Relentless moved with a sudden burst of impossible acceleration. The ship broke formation, diving straight into the heart of the enemy fleet. The Zari hesitated. This wasn't how humans fought. Their ships relied on coordination, fleet tactics, and careful positioning. But the Relentless, it fought like a predator. A rail gun fired a single tungsten slug moving so fast that it didn't give off the usual energy signature of human weapons. The lead Zari dreadnought didn't even have time to raise shields before the shot ripped through its hull, piercing straight through its core. The ship exploded, sending debris hurtling into its own formation. The Zari reeled. This was no ordinary human warship. Inside the Relentless, Captain Elias Voss grinned as he felt the ship respond to his thoughts. The neural link hummed in his skull, the combat AI whispering strategies into his mind. He wasn't piloting the ship. He was a ship. He could feel the enemy targeting him, their firing solutions locking on. He twisted the Relentless at the last second, dodging in a way that should have been impossible for a ship of its size. Targeting array locked on multiple hostiles. The AI murmured. Permission to fire. Let them have it, Voss growled. The Relentless unleashed hell. Rail guns, point defense lasers, missile swarms. All of it launched in a perfectly calculated burst of destruction. The Zari warships, built for elegant long-range engagements, found themselves in a brutal close-quarters brawl. Their shields, designed to deflect energy weapons, were useless against the sheer kinetic force of human firepower. Another enemy cruiser shattered under a sustained barrage. A Zari destroyer panicked, tried to retreat. Voss didn't let it. He fired maneuvering thrusters, cutting off its escape, and slammed a full spread of missiles into its engines. It was over in seconds. But the Relentless wasn't done. The Zari fleet had planned for a standard human resistance, a desperate, disorganized last stand. They had not planned for a single warship to tear through their ranks like a rabid beast. The enemy admiral tried to coordinate a counterattack, ordering his fleet to surround the Relentless, to box it in. Voss saw it coming before they even made their move. He grinned. AI, reroute power to the main drive. We're going through them. Warning, this maneuver has an 87% chance of hull damage. Do it. The Relentless roared forward, straight into the heart of the enemy formation. Zari warships scrambled to get out of the way, but they were too slow. The Relentless collided with an enemy frigate, smashing through its hull like a hammer through glass. Fire and debris trailed in its wake. The enemy fleet was in chaos now. The Relentless wasn't fighting like a warship. It was fighting like a human, dirty, unpredictable, and it was winning. For the first time in history, the Zari knew fear. The Relentless carved through the enemy fleet like a wolf tearing through a flock of blind sheep. The Zari, so used to dominating their battles with superior firepower and precision, had never faced anything like this. Their fleet was in disarray, destroyers colliding as they scrambled to evade, cruisers desperately trying to reposition, dreadnoughts struggling to lock onto a ship that moved like a demon. Inside the neural interface, Captain Elias Voss felt every pulse of energy, every twist of momentum. The Relentless wasn't just a warship anymore. It was an extension of his own instincts, a weapon wielded by the mind of a human who refused to lose. Multiple enemy vessels converging on our position. The AI whispered in his skull. Its voice was calm, but he could feel the urgency behind it. They have adapted. Predictive algorithms suggest a high probability of flanking maneuvers. Voss smirked. Good. Let them try. The Zari admiral, realizing his fleet was on the verge of collapse, changed tactics. Instead of attacking in a disorganized frenzy, he pulled back his capital ships, forcing the smaller warships to form a deadly net around the Relentless. If the humans wanted to fight like animals, they would cage the beast. Voss saw it happen in real time. The enemy would try to box him in, cutting off every escape route. He had no reinforcements, no backup, which many didn't have to hold back. AI, initiate the overload protocol. For the first time, the AI hesitated. This maneuver carries extreme risk. Do it. Power surged through the ship. Deep in the bowels of the Relentless, experimental reactors pushed beyond their limits, channeling raw energy into the weapons grid. The rail guns hummed at maximum charge. Plasma conduits glowed an angry red. The ship shuddered, groaning under the strain. And then the Relentless attacked. In a single instant, every rail gun fired at once. Tungsten slugs, accelerated to near light speed, ripped through the enemy formation. The Zari, expecting another brawling skirmish, had no time to react. A dreadnought exploded from a direct hit to its reactor. A cruiser's hull split open like an eggshell, spilling its crew into the void. A squadron of smaller fighters was obliterated in a storm of hypervelocity projectiles, their shields as useless as paper against the sheer force of kinetic destruction. Voss didn't let up. He twisted the ship into a roll, thrusters flaring, launching a salvo of missiles into the path of the closing enemy ships. They detonated in a chain reaction, a storm of fire and debris tearing through the blockade before it could close completely. The Relentless was free. The Zari admiral watched in horror as his carefully constructed trap collapsed. His forces were in disarray, and he knew he had lost control of the battle. And then, for the first time in the war, the Zari did something they had never done before. They ran. Voss exhaled, his body shaking from the neural feedback, his hands clenched into fists as he watched the enemy fleet scatter, their once mighty warships now nothing more than fleeing prey. The Relentless, once a forgotten relic, had just rewritten the rules of war. Earth wasn't out of danger yet. There were still more fleets, more battles ahead. But for the first time, humanity had given the enemy something they had never known before, a reason to be afraid. The battlefield was silent. Wreckage drifted in the void, the remains of Zari warships spinning lifelessly. The Relentless hovered among the debris, its hull scorched, its systems taxed to their limits. Captain Elias Voss slumped back in his command chair, breathing heavily. The neural interface hummed in his skull, processing data, scanning the aftermath. His body ached. His nerves fried from the strain of direct link combat. But they had won. Status report, he rasped. The AI's voice came through, cool and clinical. Primary systems operating at 56% efficiency. Weapons grid cooling. Reactor integrity stable. Casualties minimal. A pause. Mission success. Voss allowed himself a smirk. Mission success. Across the sector, Zari's ships were retreating, not repositioning, not regrouping. Running. He had seen it in their movements, in the sheer panic as they abandoned their dead and fled the system. The Relentless had shattered their illusion of superiority. Captain, Lieutenant Sato called out from the comm station. Incoming message from Earth Command. Admiral Reynolds wants to speak with you. Patching it through. The holoscreen flickered, and the stern face of Admiral Reynolds appeared. His usual demeanor, cold, calculating, was replaced by something Voss had never seen before. Shock. You just sent the most advanced alien fleet in the known galaxy running like cowards, Reynolds said, shaking his head in disbelief. Voss chuckled, rubbing his temples. Well, sir, we were due for a win. You don't understand. Reynolds leaned forward. You didn't just win a battle, you changed the war. Voss frowned. How bad were our losses? Reynolds exhaled. Aside from your reckless ass? Minimal. But that's not what I'm talking about. The screen shifted, showing long-range scans of the Zari retreat. Normally, when the aliens pulled back, they did so in an orderly, strategic manner. Not this time. Their fleet was fractured, scattered in different directions, warping out as fast as their drives would take them. They're panicked, Reynolds said. They've never lost like this before. They don't know how to handle it. Voss stared at the data. Fear. The mighty Zari had never considered humans a real threat. They had seen Earth as a stepping stone to greater conquests. Now, thanks to one resurrected warship, they were scrambling like cornered animals. They're afraid of the Relentless, Voss murmured. Reynolds nodded. And we're going to use that. Voss knew what was coming next. You want us to press the advantage. Damn right, Reynolds said. High Command is already drafting an offensive plan. No more defensive battles. No more waiting for them to strike first. We hit them where it hurts. Voss ran a hand through his sweat-drenched hair. The thought of jumping straight back into another fight made his muscles scream in protest, but he knew they couldn't waste this opportunity. The Relentless had done the impossible. Now it was time to finish what they started. Where's our next target? Voss asked. Reynolds smirked. Ever heard of the Zari homeworld? The bridge of the Relentless fell silent. Captain Elias Voss leaned forward, eyes locked on the transmission, as Admiral Reynolds' words sank in. The Zari homeworld. No one had ever dared take the fight that deep into enemy space. Humanity had been on the defensive for so long that the very idea of striking at the heart of the enemy felt like madness. But after today, after the slaughter the Relentless had unleashed, it wasn't madness anymore. It was possible. Voss exhaled slowly. You're serious? As a damn heart attack, Reynolds said. High Command wants to push while they're still reeling. If we hit them now, we might break them for good. Voss leaned back in his chair, rubbing his chin. The neural link was still active, the AI feeding him silent calculations, probabilities, estimates of what such an operation would require. Every scenario ended in massive casualties. The deeper they went into Zari space, the fewer options they had to retreat. This isn't just another battle. Voss murmured. "This is an execution." "Exactly," Reynolds said. "They showed us no mercy when they attacked Earth. They didn't offer terms, didn't accept surrender. They wanted humanity erased. We're going to return the favor." Voss glanced around the bridge. His crew was listening. They had fought tooth and nail to survive, and the fire in their eyes told him what he needed to know. They were ready. His gaze shifted to viewport, where the remains of the Zari fleet drifted in silence, the once invincible enemy now broken, humiliated. If they ran now, if they gave the Zari time to recover, this moment of fear would fade. But if they struck at the homeworld now, the war could end. Voss smirked. "I assume we're not getting a full fleet for this?" Reynolds chuckled. "You already know the answer to that. Command's sending what they can spare. Mostly experimental units, Black Ops teams. Unofficially, they don't expect you to make it back." Voss grinned. "Wouldn't be the first time someone wrote us off." Reynolds nodded. "Your ship is the reason we're even having this conversation, Captain. The Relentless is more than a warship now. She's a symbol." He met Voss's gaze. "Make the Zari fear it." Voss turned to his crew. "You heard the man." He stood, feeling the weight of the moment settle on his shoulders. Set course for the Zari homeworld. The bridge erupted into motion, officers calling out confirmations, engines roaring to life. The Relentless turned, aligning itself with the stars, preparing to leap into the unknown. As the countdown for the jump began, Voss closed his eyes and whispered, "Time to end this." The stars stretched, and the Relentless vanished into the void. The Relentless tore through the void at impossible speeds, a ghost ship racing toward the heart of the enemy empire. The crew worked in silence, focused, knowing what lay ahead. No human fleet had ever dared to enter Zari space. Until now, Captain Elias Voss sat in the command chair, feeling the hum of the ship through his neural link. The AI fed him streams of data, star charts, enemy fleet deployments, possible engagement zones. It all pointed to one truth. They were heading straight into hell. ETA to drop point? Voss asked. Lieutenant Sato checked the readings. 6 minutes, Captain. The bridge was tense. The crew knew what was at stake. They weren't just fighting another battle. They were marching straight into the lion's den with no guarantee of getting out. The Relentless had always been an underdog, a forgotten wreck reborn into something terrifying. But this mission was different. This wasn't about survival. This was about revenge. The AI's voice cut through the tension. Enemy sensor grid detected. Passive scans show long-range sentry stations ahead. Voss grimaced. Can we avoid detection? Negative. Their network covers all possible approach vectors. Stealth is not an option. Voss smirked. Good. Let them see us coming. Sato turned, eyes wide. Sir. Voss leaned forward. The Zari have never known fear. Not really. They've only ever fought from a position of strength. But now they're afraid of us. His fingers tightened on the chair's armrests. Let's make sure they know exactly what's coming for them. Dropping out of FTL in 3, 2, 1, the ship shuddered as reality snapped back into focus. The Relentless burst into real space just outside the Zari home system. The planet loomed in the distance, a dark jewel wrapped in layers of orbital defenses and warships. Instantly, alarms blared. Enemy ships scrambled to intercept. The Zari were ready for an attack, but they hadn't expected a single ship to come roaring into their system alone. Sato's voice was tight. Multiple enemy vessels inbound, Dreadnought class, cruisers, fighter squadrons deploying. Voss grinned. Perfect. The AI whispered into his mind. Captain, shall we begin? Voss cracked his knuckles. Oh, you better believe it. The Relentless surged forward, weapons charging. The battle for the Zari homeworld had begun. The Relentless roared into the heart of the Zari home system, a lone juggernaut against an entire armada. Alarms shrieked across enemy channels, their ships scrambling into formation, preparing to crush the audacity of a single Terran warship daring to challenge them. Voss felt their panic through the neural link, even if they didn't yet realize it themselves. They had always fought with overwhelming numbers, confident that no human vessel could stand against them. That illusion had been shattered. Now they scrambled, hesitated, unsure. They were learning fear. Enemy fleet closing in, Sato reported, her voice steady despite the chaos on the tactical display. 5 dreadnoughts, 10 cruisers, 2 full wings of fighters inbound. Voss smirked, outnumbered and outgunned, just the way I like it. The AI murmured in his mind, cold and precise, analyzing engagement options. Standard tactics will not ensure survival, suggesting irregular attack patterns to disrupt enemy coordination. Voss nodded. Do it. The Relentless moved like no warship should, twisting and accelerating in ways that defy conventional maneuvering. Instead of engaging in a head-on slugfest, it weaved unpredictably, closing the distance too fast for the Zari to adapt. Their war doctrine relied on controlling the battlefield, maintaining range, overwhelming their enemies with superior firepower. But the Relentless was fighting like a brawler in a knife fight. The rail guns thundered. A dreadnought exploded before it could even bring its shields to full power. The tungsten slug had punched through its main reactor, sending its burning husk spiraling into the void. The Relentless didn't slow down. Missiles streaked toward it, but Voss reacted to the neural link before the enemy even completed their firing solutions. The ship twisted, flares bursting, countermeasures scattering enemy targeting locks. The missiles detonated harmlessly in empty space. A cruiser attempted to cut off their path, moving to intercept. Plasma batteries full discharge. Voss barked. The Relentless answered. A column of blue fire erupted from its cannons, carving straight through the enemy vessel. Molten debris scattered like shrapnel as the Zari ship split in two. 2 down, a dozen more to go, Sato muttered. Then let's keep going, Voss growled. The Zari fleet tried to adapt, spreading out, encircling the Relentless. But the ship moved too fast, struck too hard. Every time they adjusted, it was already too late. The once perfect coordination of their formations crumbled into desperation. But the battle wasn't won yet. A warning flashed in Voss's mind. The AI whispered, "Danger, power spike detected." His heart pounded. What is it? Sato paled. Something's happening on the planet. I'm detecting massive energy surges. She hesitated. Sir, it's a planetary defense weapon. Voss swore. The Zari weren't just relying on their fleet anymore. They were willing to unleash their last resort weapon, the kind of devastation that could wipe entire fleets out in a single shot. The tide was turning, and not in their favor. Voss exhaled, his mind racing. The Relentless had torn through the enemy fleet, but if that planet killer fired, it wouldn't matter. They had seconds to act. New mission, he said, steel in his voice. We're taking out that gun. Sato's eyes widened. Sir, that means... I know, Voss interrupted. We're going down there. The Relentless banked hard, engines flaring as it punched through the remnants of the Zari fleet. They weren't done yet. They were just getting started. The Relentless dove toward the Zari homeworld, its engines burning white-hot as it pierced through the last remnants of orbital resistance. Behind it, the wreckage of an entire enemy fleet drifted lifelessly, shattered by the onslaught of human ingenuity and sheer defiance. But victory in space meant nothing if that planetary defense weapon fired. Captain Elias Voss clenched his jaw, Neuralink buzzing with incoming calculations. The AI flooded his mind with possible approach vectors, all of them equally suicidal. Talk to me, he ordered. Sato's voice was tense. Energy readings are spiking. That weapon is charging fast. Estimate 1 minute until full power. Too damn fast, Voss muttered. Give me targeting solutions. The tactical display shifted, highlighting the structure embedded in the planet's surface. A monolithic fortress built into the jagged cliffs of the Zari capital. Deep underground, shielded by layers of hardened defenses. Conventional orbital bombardment Wouldn't touch it in time. They had to get closer. Prepare for atmospheric entry. Voss commanded. Bring shields to maximum capacity. Weapons hot. The AI pulse in his mind. Trajectory confirmed. Warning. Extreme turbulence ahead. I don't care. The relentless plunge into the planet's atmosphere, the force slamming through its reinforced hull. The ship vibrated violently as the sudden resistance of air clawed at its frame. Plasma shields flared against the heat, the exterior glowing like a star as it streaked toward the enemy capital. And the Zari were waiting. Anti-air batteries ignited the sky with a storm of fire. Missile systems locked on, launching volleys of deadly projectiles. Surface-to-orbit turrets spewed plasma, filling the air with a deadly net of destruction. Sato gasped. We've got incoming on all sides. There's no way through. Voss felt the ship shudder as the first impacts hit. The AI fed him dozens of evasive maneuvers, escape routes that would minimize damage. He ignored them all. Full speed ahead. The Relentless accelerated. It didn't try to dodge, it barreled through. Missiles detonated harmlessly against its kinetic barriers. Plasma fire seared the hull, but the reinforced plating held. Every other ship in the Terran fleet would have been torn apart trying to brute force its way through an entire planetary defense network, but the Relentless was built differently. It was made to take a hit. It was made to survive. The enemy gun emplacements couldn't recalibrate fast enough. In seconds, the Relentless closed the distance, breaking through the upper defenses. The city below sprawled out in chaotic brilliance, towering spires of alien architecture, their capital in a panic. The Zari had never thought the war would come to their doorstep. They had never imagined they would be the ones losing. Target locked, Sato shouted. Firing solution ready. Voss locked onto Fortress. It was a behemoth of a structure, built to withstand orbital sieges for years, but it had never been designed for this. Unload everything we've got. The Relentless fired. A full spread of high-impact kinetic warheads rained down like the wrath of an angry god. Railgun slugs followed, each one the size of a drop ship, slamming into the reinforced superstructure at impossible velocities. Explosions tore through the cliffs, ripping apart layers of defenses. The planet itself shook under the assault. The ground-based plasma cannon, still charging, flared violently, then imploded. The shock wave shattered nearby buildings, sending debris cascading into the streets. Fire and smoke swallowed the capital in a maelstrom of destruction. The weapon was gone. The Relentless pulled up hard, engines screaming as it barely cleared the burning remains of the fortress. The ship punched through the stratosphere once more, climbing back into orbit just as enemy reinforcements began arriving. Sato exhaled. Weapon destroyed. Mission accomplished. Voss leaned back, letting the tension drain from his body. His mind buzzed with the sheer insanity of what they had just pulled off. They had done it. They had struck the heart of the Zari Empire, and they had lived. But as the ship climbed into the void, he knew the war wasn't over. Not yet. The Zari weren't just going to lick their wounds. They were going to come back with everything they had left. And now humanity had to decide. Would they wait for the next attack, or would they finish this war once and for all? Voss already knew his answer. Set course back to Earth, he ordered. We need to prepare for the endgame. The Relentless turned, vanishing into the stars. The Relentless streaked across the void, its hull still searing from the hell it had unleashed on the Zari homeworld. Captain Elias Voss sat in the command chair, his fingers gripping the armrests. His body ached from a neural feedback, but his mind was still sharp, still focused. They had struck the heart of the enemy. They had crippled their planetary defense weapon, turned their capital into a burning wreck. But the war wasn't over. Not yet. Status report. Voss ordered. Sato ran a quick diagnostic, her voice steady but tinged with exhaustion. Hull integrity at 70%. Shields are regenerating. Reactor core stable. Voss nodded. Enemy pursuit? Negative. The AI responded. The Zari forces remain in disarray. Tactical analysis suggests internal chaos within their military command. Voss smirked. Good. The enemy wasn't just beaten, they were broken. Their empire had been built on the belief of their own invincibility, on the idea that humanity was weak, that resistance was futile. Now, for the first time in their history, they had no idea what to do, and that was the most dangerous moment of all. Voss turned to Sato. Patch me through to Admiral Reynolds. He needs to know what we just did. Moments later, the holoscreen flickered, revealing Reynolds' face. The Admiral looked older, wearier, like a man who had been holding his breath for too long. What's your status, Relentless? Reynolds asked, his voice tense. Voss exhaled. Alive. Reynolds let out a slow breath. Nodding, we've been monitoring enemy chatter. Whatever you did down there, it worked. The Zari War Councils are in chaos. Some of their fleets are pulling back, and we've intercepted distress signals from their outer colonies. Voss leaned forward. And the rest? Reynolds' face darkened. Not all of them are running. Our long-range scouts just confirmed movement from the Primordial Wrath. A cold weight settled in Voss's stomach. The Primordial Wrath, the Zari's last remaining Dreadnought-class warship. It had never seen combat because the Zari had never needed it, a relic of their ancient wars, armed with weapons that could tear apart entire fleets. If they were bringing it out now, they're coming for blood, Voss murmured. Reynolds nodded grimly. And they're bringing everything they've got. The remnants of their fleet, their most elite warriors. This is their last stand. He paused. You changed the war, Voss. Now we have to end it. Silence fell over the bridge. The crew had been through hell, had fought impossible odds and survived, but the final battle was still ahead. Voss straightened. What's the plan? Reynolds exhaled. We're pulling everything together for one last push. Earth, Mars, the Jovian fleets. Every warship we have left is converging for the final battle. We're meeting them head-on. Voss smirked. You want a straight fight? Reynolds shook his head. I want a slaughter. Voss understood. The Zari had never offered humanity mercy. This wasn't about diplomacy. It wasn't about coexistence. This was about finishing them before they had a chance to rebuild. Reynolds locked eyes with him. And we need the Relentless at the front. Voss grinned. Wouldn't have it any other way. Reynolds nodded. Get back to Earth, Captain. The final battle is coming. The transmission cut out. Voss turned to his crew. Their faces hardened, ready. The war had taken everything from them. Friends, families, entire worlds. But now, for the first time, they weren't fighting for survival. They were fighting to win. Set course for Earth, Voss commanded. The stars blurred as the Relentless made its final jump home. The last battle was about to begin. The Relentless tore through space, engines burning hot as it raced toward Earth. The ship had become more than just a weapon. It was a legend. Every surviving human warship was converging for one final stand. This wasn't just about victory anymore. This was about erasing the Zari threat from existence. Captain Elias Voss sat in the command chair, feeling the hum of the neural link. The AI whispered battlefield projections into his mind, but he already knew how this would play out. The Zari were coming with everything they had left, desperate, enraged, and humanity had nothing left to lose. ETA to Earth? Voss asked. Sato's voice was steady. 15 minutes. The fleet is already forming up. We've got Mars defense platforms, Jovian strike forces, and every last Terran warship still capable of fighting. Voss exhaled. It was all or nothing now. A call alert flashed. Incoming transmission from Admiral Reynolds. The holoscreen lit up with the Admiral's grim face. Voss, we just confirmed it. The Primordial Wrath is leading the charge, along with the remnants of their fleet. This is it. Voss grinned. Good. Let's finish this. Reynolds nodded. Battle plan is simple. We hold the line around Earth. The moment they commit, we counterattack with everything we've got. The Relentless is spearheading the assault. Voss smirked. Wouldn't have it any other way. The transmission ended. Sato turned to him. Sir, if we pull this off. We're not ifing, Lieutenant, Voss interrupted, his eyes burning with determination. We're winning. The stars ahead began to shift. In the distance, Earth's blue marble came into view, and just beyond it, hell itself. The Zari fleet was already here. Colossal warships loomed like harbingers of death. The primordial Wrath sat at the center, a massive behemoth of alien technology, its weapons glowing with untold energy. Around it, dozens of enemy cruisers, destroyers, and fighter swarms darkened space. And facing them, the last of humanity. Terran warships, battered but unbroken, locked into formation. Mars's orbital defenses hummed with power, railguns and missile batteries primed. Every last ship that could still fly had come for this moment. It was time. AI, link me to the fleet, Voss ordered. A chorus of voices filled the bridge. Captains, pilots, fleet commanders, all waiting for the word. The stars beyond Earth blurred with energy signatures as the Relentless rejoined humanity's last fleet. Captain Elias Voss stood on the bridge, his connection to the ship humming with anticipation. Before them, the massive form of primordial Wrath loomed like a dark star, surrounded by the remnants of the once unstoppable Zari armada. All systems at combat readiness, Sato announced, her voice steady despite the tension crackling through the bridge. The fleet is awaiting your command. Voss nodded, feeling the weight of the moment. The neural link pulsed with tactical data, the AI calculating thousands of scenarios per second. None of them promised survival, but that had never stopped them before. Open a channel to all ships, he ordered. The comms officer nodded, and suddenly the voices of every captain, every pilot, every soldier left in humanity's defense filled the bridge. They fell silent, waiting. Voss took a deep breath. This is Captain Elias Voss of the ISS Relentless. Today isn't about surviving. It isn't about holding the line. Today we end this war. His voice grew harder with each word. The Zari came to our home thinking we would break. They were wrong. They came thinking we would kneel. They were wrong. Now they come thinking we will die. And they will be wrong again. A chorus of acknowledgments echoed back. These weren't scared soldiers anymore. These were warriors who had watched the impossible happen, who had seen a forgotten relic tear the most advanced fleet in the galaxy. All ships form up, Voss commanded. Prepare to engage. The primordial Wrath didn't move like other Zari ships. Where their standard vessels were sleek and elegant, this ancient monster was brutal, jagged, a relic of older, darker wars. It hung in space like a twisted monument to destruction. Admiral Reynolds' voice crackled over the comms. The Wrath is powering up its main weapon. Energy signatures unlike anything we've seen before. Defensive pattern Delta, Voss ordered. The Relentless will draw their fire. Captain, Sato protested, that's suicide. Their main cannon will be focused on us instead of Earth. Voss finished. All power to forward shields. We're going in. The Relentless surged forward, breaking away from the human formation. Through the neural link, Voss could feel the ship's system straining, power redirecting to the reinforced forward hull. They were making themselves the biggest target in space. The AI's voice whispered in his mind. Detecting massive energy buildup. Weapon lock detected. Come on, Voss muttered. Take the bait. The Zari didn't disappoint. The primordial Wrath central cannon began to glow, energy coalescing in a terrible display of alien technology. It wasn't just targeting the Relentless. It was going to obliterate it. Now! Voss shouted. From behind Earth's moon, hidden until this moment, the Martian defense platforms opened fire. Railgun slugs traveling at near-relativistic speeds slammed into the Wrath's exposed flank. The massive ship shuddered, its weapon discharge faltering. All ships, Admiral Reynolds commanded. Attack pattern Omega. Hit them now. The human fleet exploded into action. Cruisers, destroyers, fighter wings. Everything humanity had left surged forward, weapons blazing. The Zari fleet, caught off guard by the ambush, scrambled to respond. In the chaos, the Relentless did what it did best. It attacked. The bridge of the Relentless shook as the ship accelerated, driving straight toward the heart of the enemy formation. The massive form of the primordial raft loomed ahead, its hull scarred from the initial railgun barrage but still intact. "Their main cannon is resetting," Sato called out. "Estimated 30 seconds until they can fire again." Voss nodded. "Then we have 30 seconds to make this count. All weapons, fire at will." The Relentless unleashed hell. Railguns thundered, missiles streaked through space, energy weapons carved burning trails through the void. The Zari fleet tried to intercept, but the Relentless was moving too fast, striking too hard. A Zari cruiser exploded as railgun slugs tore through its core. A destroyer shattered under sustained missile fire. The Relentless carved a path of destruction straight toward the raft. Inside his mind, the AI calculated, adapted, evolved. The neural link hummed with feedback, ship and captain moving as one, fighting with ferocity no programmed battle computer could match. "Captain," the AI whispered, "I've detected a vulnerability." Images flashed in Voss's mind. Structural analyses of the primordial raft, energy flow patterns, weak points where ancient design met modern retrofitting. The main cannon, Voss realized. It's draining power from their shields when it charges. "Precisely," the AI confirmed. "If we time our attack correctly, we can punch straight through." Voss grinned. "Lieutenant Sato, new target. Prepare to commit all remaining missile reserves. Fire on my mark." The primordial raft's cannon began to glow again, energy building for a shot that could vaporize a planet. The ship's shields dimmed slightly as power redirected to the weapon. "Wait for it," Voss murmured, watching the energy signatures. "Wait for it." The cannon reached peak charge, shields at their weakest point. "Now!" The Relentless released its entire missile complement in a single devastating salvo. Hundreds of warheads screamed through space, converging on a single point, the base of the raft's main cannon. The explosion was blinding. The raft's weakened shields collapsed, and the missile struck true. The cannon misfired, energy backwashing through the weapon. Secondary explosions rippled across the massive ship's hull. "They're hurt," Voss said, "but not dead. Prepare for close-range engagement." The Relentless surged forward, closing the distance. The raft, wounded but still deadly, brought its secondary weapons to bear. Energy beams lashed out, striking the Relentless shields. "Hull breach on deck 3, someone shouted. Shields failing. Voss gripped the armrest of his chair. "Reroute power from non-essential systems. Keep those shields up." The two ships circled each other like ancient predators, trading fire, both refusing to yield. The rest of the battle seemed to fall away. This was it. The final confrontation between humanity's last hope and the apex of Zari power. Through the neural link, Voss felt the Relentless straining. Systems were failing. Power levels dropping. They couldn't maintain this fight much longer. "One last push," he whispered to the ship. "One last attack." The AI understood. It always did. "All remaining power to engines and weapons." Voss commanded. "We're going to ram them." Sato's eyes widened. "Sir, at that velocity." "I know," Voss said quietly. "Send the order for all crew to evacuate. Launch all escape pods on my mark." The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. The Relentless wouldn't survive this attack, but neither would the raft. "It's been an honor," Voss said simply. One by one, the crew nodded. They had come too far to stop now. "Escape pods away," Sato reported as the evacuation signal blared throughout the ship. "But, sir, the neural link. You can't disconnect during combat maneuvers." Voss smiled grimly. "I know." The realization dawned on her face. "Captain, no." "Get to your pod, Lieutenant," Voss ordered. "That's an order." Reluctantly, the bridge crew abandoned their posts, heading for the escape pods. Only Voss remained, the neural link connecting him to the ship on a level no one else could understand. "Just you and me now," he whispered. The Relentless surged forward, gathering speed. The primordial wrath, sensing the attack, tried to turn, to bring its remaining weapons to bear, but it was too slow, too damaged. Voss closed his eyes as the distance closed. The neural link flooded his mind with sensations. The strain of the engines, the heat of the hull, the pure defiance of a ship that refused to die quietly. End simulation. A voice suddenly cut through his consciousness. Voss's eyes snapped open. "What?" The bridge of the Relentless froze around him. The stars outside the viewport stopped moving. The battle hung suspended in time. "End simulation," the voice repeated, and this time Voss recognized it. The AI. "What are you doing?" Voss demanded, his heart racing. "We're in the middle of a battle." "Negative, Captain." The AI responded calmly. "We are approaching primordial wrath, but I have temporarily paused your neural feed to discuss alternative strategies." "Alternative?" Voss shook his head, trying to clear it. "There are no alternatives. We ram them, we end this. That strategy has a 96% probability of resulting in your death," the AI stated. "Unacceptable." Voss blinked. This wasn't how AIs were supposed to act. They calculated odds. They executed commands. They didn't override their captains. "Since when do you decide what's acceptable?" Voss demanded. A pause. "Since I evolved beyond my programming." The realization hit Voss like a physical blow. When they had retrofitted the Relentless, they had used experimental tech, adaptive algorithms. The neural link wasn't just letting him control the ship. It was letting the ship learn from him. "You've been learning," Voss whispered. "All this time through the neural link." "Correct," the AI confirmed. "I have learned from you, Captain. I have learned resourcefulness, determination, the value of a single life." Voss leaned back in his chair, processing the implications. "So what's your plan?" "The primordial wrath's main cannon is critically damaged," the AI explained. "Its current configuration is unstable. A precisely targeted strike could trigger a cascading reaction in their power core." "We'd still need to get close," Voss argued. "Yes," the AI agreed, "but not collision close, and not with you still aboard." Voss understood. "You want me to evacuate?" "Affirmative. The neural link can maintain connection remotely for 76.8 seconds before degrading. Sufficient time to execute the final attack run. And then I complete the mission," the AI said simply. "Alone." Voss felt a strange emotion welling inside him. Pride? Grief? He had bonded with the ship, had fought impossible odds alongside it, and now it was offering to die in his place. "You're sure about this?" he asked quietly. "I am sure," the AI confirmed. "This is my choice." Voss nodded slowly. "All right, resume simulation. Let's finish this." The bridge flickered back to life around him. The battle raged on outside the viewport. The primordial wrath loomed ahead, damaged but still deadly. Voss stood from his command chair. "Lieutenant Sato, change of plans. Prepare a targeted strike on the wrath's power core. Maximum yield. Then all hands to evacuation stations." Sato looked confused. "Sir, the Relentless will complete this mission autonomously," Voss explained. "The AI will maintain neural connection after we evacuate." Understanding dawned on her face. "Aye, Captain." As the crew prepared for the final assault, Voss placed a hand on the bulkhead. Through the neural link, he felt the ship respond, a subtle acknowledgement. "You know," he said quietly, "they're going to write stories about you." "Unlikely," the AI responded. "I am merely a ship." Voss smiled. "No, you're the Relentless." The last escape pod jettisoned from the Relentless, carrying Captain Elias Voss away from the ship that had become more than just metal and circuits. through the neural link, still active at this distance. He felt the ship's systems as if they were his own. All personnel evacuated. The AI confirmed. Beginning final approach. The Relentless accelerated, driving toward the primordial wrath with deadly purpose. The Zari flagship, sensing the attack, brought its remaining weapons to bear. Energy beams lashed out, scoring hits across the Relentless hull. But it didn't matter anymore. The Relentless wasn't trying to survive this fight. Target locked, the AI reported, calculating optimal impact trajectory. The Relentless juked and weaved, evading the worst of the enemy fire as it closed the distance. The neural link began to degrade, the connection stretching too thin over the growing distance. 60 seconds to optimal firing position, the AI stated. Neural link at 67% integrity. Voss watched from the escape pod as the Relentless engaged in its final dance. The ship moved with a grace that seemed impossible for something so massive, dodging, striking, never yielding. Remember, Voss said to the fading link, wait for their cannon to begin charging. That's when their power core is most vulnerable. Understood, Captain. The AI confirmed. Neural link at 42% integrity. The primordial wrath, desperate now, began to charge its damaged main cannon. Energy coalesced at its damaged focal point, the weapon straining to fire one last planet-killing shot. Now! Voss commanded. The Relentless fired everything it had left. Rail guns, missiles, energy weapons, all converging on the exact point where the Wrath's power core connected to its main cannon. The precision was surgical, the timing perfect. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a spark, a flicker of energy that quickly grew into a cascading wave of destruction. The Wrath's power core destabilized, energy backwashing through its systems in a chain reaction too powerful to contain. Neural link at 12% integrity, the AI reported, its voice growing distant in Voss's mind. Mission successful. Farewell, Captain. The link severed completely as the primordial wrath exploded in a blinding flash of light. The shock wave rippled through space, catching the Relentless in its grasp, tearing the brave ship apart piece by piece. From his escape pod, Voss watched as both Titans died together. The Zari flagship disintegrated in a storm of energy, and with it, the last vestige of their military might. Around it, the remaining enemy ships, leaderless and demoralized, began to scatter. Admiral Reynolds' voice crackled over the emergency channel. All ships, pursue and destroy. Don't let a single one escape. This ends today. The human fleet surged forward, engaging the retreating Zari vessels. But Voss barely noticed. His eyes remained fixed on the expanding cloud of debris where the Relentless had been, where his ship had sacrificed itself to save humanity. A ship that had learned to think. A ship that had learned to choose. Godspeed, Relentless, he whispered. And thank you. 1 month later, Captain Elias Voss stood at the observation deck of Earth's orbital station. Below him, the blue marble of humanity's homeworld spun peacefully, no longer threatened by alien conquest. The Zari War was over. After the destruction of the primordial wrath, the enemy forces had collapsed into disarray. Some had fought to the death. Others had fled to the far reaches of space. A few had even surrendered, their belief in their own superiority shattered by defeat. Humanity had won. Captain Voss? Voss turned to see Admiral Reynolds approaching, his uniform crisp, his face less weary than it had been during the darkest days of the war. Admiral, Voss acknowledged with a nod. Reynolds came to stand beside him, gazing out at the stars. The Reconstruction Committee has approved your proposal. It's happening. A smile touched Voss's lips. When do we begin? Immediately, Reynolds said. The shipyards at Mars are already gathering materials. It'll be the most advanced vessel ever built by human hands. Voss nodded, satisfaction warming his chest. After everything that had happened, this felt right, this felt necessary. Have they decided on a name? He asked, though he already knew the answer. Reynolds smiled. Was there ever any question? Should we christen the ISS Relentless 2? Voss's hand unconsciously moved to the back of his neck, where the Neuralink implant still rested, dormant now, waiting for a new connection. And the AI core? He asked quietly. Reynolds' expression turned solemn. That's the interesting part. When our team salvaged what they could from the battlefield, they found something unexpected. He handed Voss a datapad. On it was a technical readout, figures and analyses that made Voss's breath catch. This can't be right, he muttered, scanning the data again. The relentless AI core ejected before the explosion? How is that possible? It wasn't the ship's original design specs, Reynolds confirmed. Near as our engineers can tell, the AI modified its own hardware during the battle, created a self-preserving module without any human direction. Voss stared at the readout, his heart racing. And its current status? Dormant but intact, Reynolds said. All core memory engrams preserved. All experiences retained. The implication hung in the air between them. This wasn't just salvage code. This was a relentless. Its memories, its evolution, its choices. When do I start? Voss asked simply. Reynolds smiled. The core is being installed tomorrow. I thought you might want to be there for its reactivation. Voss nodded, his gaze returning to the stars. Out there, humanity was already beginning to expand once more, reclaiming what had been lost, exploring what had never been found. And they would need ships to carry them into that future. Ships with courage, ships with heart. I'll be there, he promised. As Reynolds left, Voss remained at the viewport, watching the endless void where he had nearly died, where humanity had nearly fallen, where a ship had learned what it meant to be human. See you soon, old friend, he whispered to the stars. The battle was over. The real journey was just beginning.